So this is going to be a bread video. It's going to be pretty similar to the pizza for most of it. There's going to be a couple of different techniques and a couple of pieces of equipment that we're going to need to use that are different, but it's essentially the same thing. So we're going to start with 5 grams of yeast and 390 water. Let's give that a little mix. So while the yeast is activating, I'll just go through the other things that are going to be different from the pizza videos. First of all, this is called a banneton. It's a rattan basket that is used for proofing bread. And what you're going to want to do is, once we're at the final stage, after we've done our final shape and we want to leave it for its last rise, we're going to put it in this basket. Mine's sort of pre-seasoned, as you can see, with some flour. If you've got a new one, you're going to need to season it a few times before you can get it ready to go. But essentially all you do to season it is, I've got a 50-50 mixture of bread flour and rice flour in here. The rice flour is less absorbent, just helps it keep your bread from sticking to the basket. And you're just going to want to dust it like this. And then just get it all into those grooves. Give it a nice little rub in. And that is good to go. And then we've got our dough whisk. We've got 11 grams of salt, 390 of water with our 5 of yeast, and we're going to have 500 flour too. And then one more thing which you might want, if you want to make pretty patterns on your bread, you can get what is called a lame, which is essentially just a razor blade in a fancy enclosure. They can look like this, or they can look... Or they can look like this. This style has a curved blade, which can be easier for doing deep scoring. And then you're going to need a cast iron Dutch oven or cast iron pan. And that's about it. So you can see our yeast is nice and active now. You can see it bubbling away to the top. So just going to chuck 500 grams of flour in this bowl. Then 11 grams of yeast. Give that a little mix in. Sorry, not yeast, salt. And then all of that water is just going to go in. Same as the pizza, just a shaggy dough, and then bring it together with a wet hand. And we're going to come do our first stretch and fold in about an hour's time. All right, so it's been an hour. And we're just going to do our first stretch and fold. This is a bit more of this dough is higher in hydration than the pizza dough, so it's going to be a bit harder to work with. It's going to be a lot more sticky. So you're just going to have to make sure that you're dipping your hands in the water a fair bit so that it's not sticking to you. And also when we get to the shaping stage, shaping high hydration dough can be hard to get the hang of, but I'll show you how I do it. And with a bit of practice, it should be alright. There we go, first stretch and fold done. So we're doing our second stretch and fold. As you can see, got a little bit of rising happening. It's looking very nice. A lot smoother now. So we're just going to push some of the air out of it. And stretch and fold. I think we're probably just going to do one more stretch and fold in this, and then we'll do the pre-shape, the final shape, and we'll get it in the Balaton. Okay, see you in an hour. Okay, so we are at the pre-shaping stage. All a pre-shape is we're just going to tighten the dough up a little bit and sort of get it into its initial round shape. So we just want to turn it out top side down onto the surface. It's going to need a lot of coaxing. So what we're going to want to do is wet our hand and wet our bench scraper a little bit. And we're just going to lift it in a little bit. We're trying not to knock too much air out of the dough at this point. So we're just going to give it a little stretch and fold. It's going to stick a bit, but don't worry, that's fine. So get it into a rough round shape like that. And we're going to flip it, and we're just going to, with a wet hand and a wet scraper, we're just going to come in at a low angle and just push under and push towards ourselves. looking good. And then we're just going to let this relax for about 30 minutes. Just a little dusting. And cover it. Okay, so this is going to be the final shape. So we want our banneton ready, which I do have somewhere. We want a dry surface, and we want to make sure the top of our dough is nice and dry. We're not going to have wet hands this time. We're going to have dry, actually floured hands. So just dry off the scraper. So we're just going to treat this really gently now. We really don't want to knock any of the air out because that's going to be our structure. So we just want to come in swiftly but gently, turn it over. And this is quite a high hydration dough. So you can see it's gone quite flat and it's lost a lot of its height from the pre-shape. So we're going to do a bit more of a structural final shape. With a drier dough, you can get away with not really doing much, but we basically want a rectangle, and we want to bring the bottom up to the middle, and then we want to bring in each side. And then the top. And we're just going to gently roll that towards us. You can see we've got a nice rectangular and high, proud loaf. So now, just making sure that our hands are dry, but there isn't too much flour on the work surface. We're just going to gently push and pull until we've got a round shape. We really don't want to knock too much of the air out of here, so we're just being really gentle. And what we're trying to do is pull this skin tight on top. We don't want to handle it too much at this stage, so I'll leave that there. Okay, so we've got our banneton. I'm just gonna gently come under and put it into the banneton seam side up. We can just, any big holes here, we can just pinch in. And that is ready for the final rise. So you've got two options at this point. You can either cover it and put it in the fridge overnight, or you can leave it to rise while your pan and oven preheat for the next sort of 45 minutes or so, which is what I'm going to do. If you're going to put it in the fridge overnight, just cover it like this. You can do it with a cloth or some cling film, whatever you prefer, a plate. I'm going to leave this on the counter for about 45 minutes while my oven heats up, and we'll be back for scoring and baking. So this is where we get to have a bit of fun. So once your dough's risen, it's time, that's not going to be big enough, it's time to get a bit creative and score it. So you just want to place some parchment paper on there, get your hand under it and turn it out gently. And we just give it a little dusting with our the basket. Give it a little dusting with our bread flour, rice flour mix. This is purely aesthetic. If you do this, you can get a nice white finish, which makes your scoring stand out a lot more. So you don't have to do this if you don't want a flour covered loaf. Now, what should we do? Let's keep it simple. Let's do a square. And then maybe a leaf on top. Okay, I think that'll look nice. Now, get this excess off, and we'll just cut down the parchment so that it's not all up the sides of our pan. Now, what we want to do, you can see that, grab our very hot pan and lid, and we're just going to pick this up using the parchment, the sides like that, drop it in. Lid on. Now that's going to go in the oven for 25 minutes with the lid on. And the oven is at maximum, so 250 degrees. All right, we'll come back in 25. So the bread has been in the oven covered on max temp for 25 minutes now. And as you can see, it's risen pretty nicely. So at this point, it's up to you how long you leave it in for uncovered. I'm gonna probably put it in for another 10 minutes, get a bit of color on it. But at this point, it's completely down to how dark you'd like it. So that's it. That's the bread tutorial. I hope you enjoyed.